Welcome to a journey that will challenge everything you thought you knew about history, mythology, and the very fabric of our reality. For centuries, humanity has been captivated by tales of colossal beings, towering figures that stride through the mists of ancient lore. These are the giants, often dismissed as mere fantasy, remnants of primitive imaginations, or exaggerated campfire stories. But what if these tales are not just stories? What if they are echoes of a forgotten truth, whispers from a time when beings of immense stature walked among us? Today, we delve into one of the most mysterious and controversial topics across ancient texts, the Nephilim. Mentioned briefly in the cryptic verses of the Book of Genesis, and expanded upon in enigmatic writings like the Book of Enoch, these beings ignite endless debate and profound questions. Who were they, truly? Were they simply large humans or something far more extraordinary, something alien to our understanding of biology and existence? The prevailing narrative often relegates them to the dustbin of mythology, a footnote in theological discussions, or a strange anomaly in historical records. But that accepted narrative we propose might be incomplete, perhaps even deliberately misleading. Imagine for a moment that these beings, these powerful, enigmatic giants, did not simply vanish with the floodwaters or fade into the annals of forgotten antiquity. What if their influence, their lineage, or even their very presence has persisted? Could they have adapted, evolved, or perhaps even found ways to remain hidden, leaving an indelible mark on the modern world without our conscious awareness? This is not about sensationalism, but about asking uncomfortable questions, about peering through the veil of conventional wisdom to explore possibilities that shake the foundations of our understanding. Join us as we embark on a profound investigation, one that dares to ask, who were the Nephilim? Did they truly disappear from the face of the earth? Or have they merely taken on new forms, operating from the shadows, or perhaps hiding in plain sight in today's world? Having laid the groundwork for the enduring mystery of the Nephilim, our journey now takes us back to the earliest recorded accounts of these enigmatic beings. We turn to the ancient texts, specifically the Book of Genesis, where the first mention of the Nephilim appears, sparking centuries of theological debate and scholarly inquiry. The verses are brief, yet profoundly impactful, found in Genesis chapter 6 verses 1 through 4. These verses describe a time when humanity began to multiply on the earth, and daughters were born to them. Then, something extraordinary and deeply unsettling occurred. It says that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. This passage, though concise, opens a Pandora's box of questions. Who exactly were these sons of God? And what does it mean that they took daughters of men as wives, resulting in offspring described as giants or mighty men of renown, the Nephilim? Two primary interpretations have emerged over time. The first suggests that the sons of God were simply the righteous lineage of Seth, descending from Adam, who intermarried with the unrighteous lineage of Cain. This view proposes that the giants were not literally enormous, but rather powerful, tyrannical individuals born from these mixed unions, whose wickedness brought about the Great Flood. This interpretation seeks to maintain a purely humanistic explanation for the Nephilim. However, a far more controversial, yet textually compelling, interpretation points to a supernatural origin. This view, deeply rooted in ancient Jewish tradition and expanded upon in extra-biblical texts, posits that the sons of God were not human at all, but rather divine beings, specifically fallen angels. These angels, abandoning their celestial dwelling and their appointed roles, descended to earth and, driven by lust, took human women as wives. The offspring of these illicit and forbidden unions were the Nephilim, a hybrid race, part celestial, and part human, whose very existence was an abomination in the eyes of the divine. To truly grasp the weight of this interpretation, we must look beyond Genesis and consult texts like the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch, though not part of the canonical Bible for most Christian denominations, was widely known and influential in ancient Jewish and early Christian thought. It is quoted or alluded to in the New Testament, notably in the book of Jude and 2 Peter. Enoch provides a vivid, detailed account of these watchers, a class of angels who rebelled against their Creator. It names their leaders, describes their descent upon Mount Hermon, and elaborates on their instruction of forbidden knowledge to humanity, including metallurgy, cosmetics, and warfare, alongside their procreation with human women. The Enochian narrative portrays the Nephilim as monstrous ravenous giants who consumed all of humanity's provisions, and when those ran out, they turned upon humans themselves. Their violence and corruption filled the earth, defiling it and crying out to heaven for justice. This detailed account in Enoch paints a picture of a world spiraling into depravity, not just from human sin, but from a direct, supernatural corruption introduced by these fallen watchers and their monstrous offspring. This forbidden union was not merely a social transgression. It was a cosmic rebellion, a profound act of spiritual defilement that permeated all of creation. The spiritual implications of this union were catastrophic. The very DNA of humanity, created in the image of the divine, was being corrupted. The unique purity of the human bloodline, intended to carry the promise of a Redeemer, was under direct assault. This was more than just moral decay. It was a genetic and spiritual contamination that threatened to erase the divine blueprint for mankind. It was a crisis of such magnitude that it provoked a radical divine intervention, the Great Flood. The biblical narrative makes it clear that the state of the earth before the flood was one of profound wickedness. Genesis 6, verse 5 states, "Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually." This widespread corruption, according to the supernatural interpretation, was inextricably linked to the presence and influence of the Nephilim. Their violent nature, their unholy genesis, and the dark knowledge imparted by their angelic fathers led to a world so utterly depraved that it grieved the Creator's heart. The flood, therefore, was not merely an act of divine punishment, but an act of divine cleansing, a purification of a world utterly defiled. It was a cataclysmic reset, designed to eradicate the hybrid lineage of the Nephilim and to prevent the complete corruption of humanity. Only Noah and his family, found righteous in a world steeped in wickedness, were spared. This preservation was crucial, for through Noah's lineage, the promise of salvation would eventually be fulfilled. The significance of this event, this forbidden union, resonates throughout the scriptures. It highlights the constant spiritual battle for humanity's soul and destiny. It reveals the lengths to which fallen beings would go to corrupt divine order and thwart the Creator's plans. The story of the sons of God and the daughters of men is not just an ancient anecdote. It is a foundational narrative that explains the depth of evil that can permeate the world when spiritual boundaries are breached. It underscores why this specific transgression was so egregious, so destructive, that it necessitated a global judgment. It was a direct assault on the very essence of creation and the divine image within humanity. The memory of these giants, these mighty men of old, would linger, a warning of the consequences of such unholy alliances and a testament to a time when the veil between the spiritual and physical realms was terrifyingly thin. This foundational understanding of the Nephilim is crucial as we continue to explore whether their legacy, or even their presence, extends far beyond the ancient world and into our modern era. After exploring the profound and controversial origins of the Nephilim in ancient scriptures, we now cast our gaze wider, far beyond the confines of biblical narratives. For the stories of giants are not exclusive to the Hebrew Bible or the Book of Enoch. Indeed, Accounts of enormous, powerful beings are woven into the very fabric of human history and mythology, surfacing across virtually every culture on every continent. This remarkable consistency begs a pivotal question. Are these merely separate, unrelated myths born from collective human imagination? Or are they fragments of a forgotten shared truth, echoes of a time when giants truly walked the earth? Consider first the ancient civilizations of Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization itself. Here, in the Sumerian tablets, we encounter tales of the Anunnaki, a group of powerful, sometimes benevolent, sometimes fearsome deities. While not always described as giants in the same physical sense as the Nephilim, their stature and their direct involvement in human affairs often align with the characteristics attributed to the pre-flood watchers. They are depicted as having immense power, advanced knowledge, and a significant influence on early human development, mirroring the angelic instruction detailed in the Book of Enoch. The Epic of Gilgamesh, for instance, speaks of a hero of immense size and strength, hinting at an age of larger-than-life figures. Moving westward, we find the vibrant tapestry of Greek mythology. Here, the concept of giants is explicit and central. The Titans, primordial deities of incredible size and strength, ruled before the Olympian gods. Figures like Atlas, who held up the heavens, or the Cyclopes, one-eyed giants of immense physical prowess, populate their epic sagas. Later, the Gigantes, born from Gaia, the earth, rose up in rebellion against the Olympian gods, a cosmic conflict reminiscent of the heavenly rebellion that birthed the Nephilim. The consistency of these Greek narratives, particularly their emphasis on titanic struggles and beings of immense scale, suggests a common thread with the biblical accounts. Across the Atlantic, in the vast and ancient landscapes of the Americas, a striking body of evidence and lore speaks of giants. Native American traditions across numerous tribes, from the Iroquois and Cherokee in the east to the Paiute and Sioux in the west, contain compelling stories of colossal humanoids. Perhaps one of the most well-known is the legend of the red-haired giants of Lovelock Cave in Nevada. Paiute oral traditions describe a race of enormous, sometimes cannibalistic, red-haired people who inhabited the region before their ancestors arrived. Astonishingly, archaeological findings in Lovelock Cave in the early 20th century unearthed skeletal remains that some claimed were unusually large, supporting the native legends. While these claims have been met with skepticism by mainstream archaeology, the persistent local legends and anecdotal reports remain a compelling part of the narrative. Beyond Lovelock, countless newspaper clippings and local historical accounts from the 19th and early 20th centuries across North America report the discovery of massive skeletons. These reports, often found in dusty archives and small-town historical societies, describe bones far larger than typical human remains, sometimes measuring 7, 8, or even 12 feet in length. Accounts from mound builder sites in the Ohio Valley, ancient burial grounds in California, and remote areas of the Pacific Northwest frequently mention the excavation of giant bones. While many of these reports lack rigorous scientific verification by modern standards, their sheer volume and consistency across disparate regions are difficult to dismiss entirely as mere folklore. For instance, newspaper articles from the 1800s detail the discovery of giant skeletons in states like Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania, often found within ancient burial mounds. These accounts, sometimes accompanied by rough sketches, speak of enormous femurs, skulls, and rib cages that clearly belong to beings significantly larger than average humans. The Smithsonian incident, a topic we will delve into deeper in a later chapter, has become a focal point for many who believe these discoveries were not isolated incidents, but part of a widespread phenomenon that was subsequently suppressed. From the majestic figures carved into the ancient stones of Easter Island to the megalithic structures of Baalbek in Lebanon, where stones weighing over 1,000 tons were moved with incredible precision, the sheer scale of ancient architecture around the world often prompts questions about the capabilities of their builders. Were these monumental feats achieved solely by human ingenuity and immense labor? Or did they benefit from the knowledge, strength, or even direct involvement of beings far superior in size and power? The consistent depiction of giants, or beings of extraordinary stature and ability, in the mythology and archaeological whispers of virtually every civilization, suggests that we may be looking at something far more profound than isolated cultural fantasies. These global accounts, consistent across time and disparate cultures, challenge the conventional understanding of human history. They prompt us to consider whether humanity's past is not simply a linear progression, but a complex tapestry interwoven with the presence of extraordinary beings whose very existence has been carefully obscured. This consistent thread of giants across global narratives sets the stage for our next inquiry. If such evidence exists, why is it not readily accepted? Why does it seem as though the truth has been buried? Having surveyed the astonishing global consistency of giant narratives and the tantalizing hints of their physical existence in archaeological records, a crucial and unsettling question emerges. If there is so much anecdotal evidence, so many consistent cultural accounts, and historical newspaper reports of massive skeletal discoveries, why is this not common knowledge? Why is the mainstream scientific and historical community largely silent on the matter, or quick to dismiss such claims as hoaxes or misidentifications? This leads us directly to a controversial, yet increasingly vocal, allegation that the truth about giants has been deliberately suppressed, a systematic cover-up orchestrated by powerful institutions. The primary target of these allegations is often the Smithsonian Institution, the renowned complex of museums and research centers in the United States. Numerous researchers, independent archaeologists, and whistleblowers have claimed that the Smithsonian, along with other academic bodies and governmental agencies, has actively collected, hidden, or even destroyed evidence of giant human remains. The argument goes that whenever large, anomalous skeletons were unearthed, particularly during the boom of archaeological excavations in the 19th and early 20th centuries, these artifacts were often taken into the possession of such institutions and subsequently vanished from public view or official records. One of the most frequently cited pieces of evidence for this alleged cover-up comes from a supposed Supreme Court case in 2014 involving the American Institution of Alternative Archaeology versus the Smithsonian Institution. While the specific details and verifiable documentation of this legal case are often debated and difficult to pinpoint definitively in public records, the narrative surrounding it alleges that the Smithsonian was accused of destroying tens of thousands of giant human remains to protect established historical narratives. The contention is that a court ruling supposedly forced the Smithsonian to release classified documents confirming their involvement in suppressing evidence of giant skeletons. Whether this specific court case is verifiable fact or part of a persistent urban legend, it underscores the deep suspicion many hold regarding the official handling of anomalous discoveries. But why would powerful institutions engage in such a massive deception? The motivations, according to proponents of the cover-up theory, are multifaceted and deeply interwoven with the fabric of modern understanding. One primary motivation is the protection of the established evolutionary theory. If evidence of giants, particularly those of anomalous size or potentially hybrid characteristics, were widely accepted, it could fundamentally challenge the prevailing paradigm of human evolution. The idea of a pre-flood civilization, or a coexistence with beings that do not fit neatly into the evolutionary timeline, could dismantle decades, even centuries, of scientific consensus. Academics and researchers who have built their careers on current models might fear the upheaval and recalibration that such discoveries would necessitate. It is a defense of intellectual turf and a desire to maintain the perceived stability of scientific knowledge. Another powerful motivation is theological upheaval. For many, the concept of the Nephilim as literal offspring of fallen angels and human women is a deeply uncomfortable biblical interpretation, often dismissed as metaphorical or allegorical to avoid confronting its profound implications. If physical evidence of such beings were to surface, it would validate a literal interpretation of Genesis 6, bringing uncomfortable theological questions to the forefront. It could challenge doctrines, create schisms within religious institutions, and force a re-evaluation of humanity's spiritual history and its relationship with unseen realms. For institutions that prefer a neatly ordered universe, free from overt supernatural interference, such revelations could be profoundly destabilizing. Furthermore, there is the potential for geopolitical control and the maintenance of societal order. Imagine the societal impact if it were widely accepted that a race of powerful ancient giants, possibly connected to rebellious divine beings, once roamed the earth. This knowledge could spark widespread existential crises, challenge governmental authority, and perhaps even lead to a re-evaluation of historical power structures. The implications for human identity, spirituality, and our place in the cosmos would be immense, potentially leading to widespread panic or unrest. Maintaining control over historical narratives, therefore, becomes a powerful tool for social stability, even if it means suppressing uncomfortable truths. The recurring question that echoes through these allegations is simple, yet profound. If there is nothing to hide, why are there so many missing bones, so many restricted archaeological dig sites, and so many redacted reports concerning these colossal discoveries? Critics point to the curious lack of publicly accessible giant skeletons in major museums, despite the numerous historical reports of their excavation. They question why certain dig sites known for anomalous finds are often closed off to independent researchers, or are excavated under strict governmental or institutional control. The pattern, they argue, suggests not a lack of evidence, but a deliberate effort to control and limit its dissemination. Consider the anecdotes of researchers being denied access to collections, or historical documents being lost when inquiries about giant remains are made. These allegations, whether fully provable in a court of law or not, collectively paint a picture of a system that actively manages what history is presented to the public. It is a deep dive into the shadowlands of conspiracy theory, yet it raises valid questions about institutional power, scientific dogma, and the forces that shape our collective understanding of the past. The implications of such a cover-up are enormous. If humanity has been deliberately kept in the dark about such a significant part of its history, what else might be hidden? And what are the broader ramifications for our understanding of ourselves, our origins, and our destiny? This chapter reveals that the mystery of the Nephilim is not just an archaeological or biblical curiosity. It is a battleground for truth, where the accepted narrative fights to maintain its dominance against the persistent whispers of a buried past. This concealment, if true, has profound implications for what may be stirring again in our world. Our exploration of ancient giants and the alleged cover-up of their existence brings us to a profound and unsettling question. If these powerful beings, or their instigators, the fallen watchers, were truly a part of Earth's ancient history, could they be returning? Is there evidence, both subtle and overt, that something ancient is stirring again in our modern era, signaling a re-emergence of forces that once brought the world to the brink of destruction? This chapter ties ancient prophecy to contemporary phenomena, inviting us to consider whether the past is not merely repeating, but actively reasserting itself. The biblical narrative, particularly the Book of Daniel and the Book of Revelation, offers glimpses into a future where spiritual forces play a significant role in earthly affairs. Daniel's prophecies speak of kingdoms rising and falling, influenced by spiritual entities. Revelation depicts a world increasingly under the sway of deceptive powers, leading to a culmination of spiritual conflict. These ancient prophecies, when viewed through the lens of the Nephilim narrative, suggest that this spiritual realm is not static, but dynamic, with periods of heightened activity and intervention. Could we be living in such a period now? One area of observation points to an apparent increase in supernatural activity. Reports of ghostly encounters, poltergeist phenomena, and demonic oppression seem to be more prevalent, or at least more openly discussed, than in previous generations. While skepticism is always warranted, the sheer volume and consistency of these accounts, often from credible witnesses, suggest a potential thinning of the veil between our physical reality and the spiritual dimension. Is this merely a rise in superstition, or a symptom of something more profound, something otherworldly attempting to breach our reality? Parallel to this, there has been a notable rise in strange humanoid sightings. From cryptids like Bigfoot, often described as unusually large and powerful, to more elusive entities reported in remote wilderness areas, the persistence of these sightings across cultures and continents cannot be entirely dismissed. While not explicitly identified as Nephilim, their often unusual stature, strength, and elusiveness resonate with the ancient descriptions of giants who were men of renown, yet perhaps not fully human. These accounts, often bordering on the fantastic, contribute to the sense that unexplained, powerful entities may be interacting with our world in ways we do not fully comprehend. Perhaps more unsettling is the modern fascination with an advancement in genetic manipulation. The rapid strides in genetic engineering, CRISPR technology, and the burgeoning field of transhumanism raise critical ethical and spiritual questions. Humanity is on the cusp of being able to alter its own genetic code to enhance physical and cognitive abilities, and even to potentially merge with technology. While presented as progress, could this ambition unwittingly echo the ancient desire, perhaps instigated by the fallen Watchers, to become like gods, to transcend human limitations through forbidden knowledge? The very concept of creating hybrid beings, blending human and non-human DNA, carries a chilling parallel to the genesis of the Nephilim. Is humanity, in its pursuit of technological advancement, unknowingly reopening a door that was shut by divine judgment? Furthermore, a discernible rise in occultism and esoteric practices has become increasingly visible in popular culture and societal trends. From the resurgence of witchcraft and paganism to the mainstreaming of New Age spirituality that often venerates ancient deities or cosmic beings, there is a distinct shift towards exploring the spiritual realm outside of traditional religious frameworks. Many of these practices involve attempting to commune with or invoke entities from other dimensions. Could this widespread interest in the occult be inadvertently creating energetic openings, inviting influences that have long been dormant or constrained? The Book of Enoch states that the Watchers taught humanity sorcery and divination. The current spiritual landscape seems ripe for such influences to re-emerge. The most provocative theory linking ancient prophecies to modern phenomena suggests that the Nephilim may not have left in the traditional sense, but rather shifted form or retreated into hidden dimensions. Could the entities we now identify as extraterrestrials, often described as having advanced knowledge, superior technology, and a curious interest in human genetics, be the modern manifestation of these ancient Watchers or their descendants? The parallels between alien abduction narratives and ancient accounts of angelic visitations, particularly the intrusive and experimental nature of some abduction experiences, are striking. If the Nephilim were hybrid beings, perhaps their lineage has persisted through different forms, evolving to adapt to a changing world, or even presenting themselves in a way that aligns with our modern understanding of otherworldly beings. Consider the notion that these entities are not necessarily from distant galaxies, but from other dimensions, able to cross into our reality through means we do not yet fully grasp. Biblical texts allude to such dimensional breaches, from Jacob's ladder, a stairway to heaven, to the abyss described in Revelation, a bottomless pit from which demonic entities emerge. If these ancient Watchers were indeed celestial beings, their understanding of dimensional travel would far exceed our own. Perhaps their return is not a physical re-entry from space, but a spiritual and dimensional re-emergence into our sphere, manifesting in ways that confound our conventional scientific understanding. The idea that something is stirring again is not presented as a certainty, but as a chilling possibility, one that demands closer scrutiny. The convergence of increased supernatural activity, strange humanoid sightings, advancements in genetic manipulation, and a rise in occultism creates a mosaic of phenomena that, when viewed through the lens of ancient Nephilim accounts, appears deeply significant. It raises the question of whether we are simply observing unrelated anomalies, or if these are interconnected signs pointing to a prophetic fulfillment, the re-emergence of ancient spiritual forces, possibly even the direct descendants or progenitors of the Nephilim, preparing the world for a final confrontation. The implications for humanity, both biologically and spiritually, are immense, leading us to consider how modern science itself might be intertwined with this ancient mystery. Our journey through the re-emerging signs of ancient forces now takes an unexpected turn, leading us from spiritual phenomena to the cutting edge of modern science, genetics. If the Nephilim were indeed hybrid beings, born from an unholy union between celestial and human, then their very existence points to a profound genetic anomaly. This raises a chilling question for our modern world. Could today's advancements in DNA technology and even certain human genetic traits be unknowingly tied to this ancient Nephilim mystery? Are we perhaps witnessing a DNA war, a battle for the very blueprint of humanity that began millennia ago? One of the most persistent, albeit controversial, theories connect certain human bloodlines to these ancient hybrid beings. Specifically, the discussion often centers around the Rh-negative blood type. While a common blood type, some researchers propose that its origins are anomalous, not fitting neatly within typical evolutionary models. The theory, without scientific consensus, suggests that Ra-negative blood could be a remnant of a lineage that was not entirely human, a genetic marker pointing back to a time when different species, or perhaps different kinds of beings, interbred. While purely speculative, it sparks curiosity about whether some elite families or specific groups might unknowingly carry genetic echoes of these ancient bloodlines, perhaps explaining certain predispositions or traits. The rise of advanced genetic technologies brings this ancient narrative into stark contemporary focus. CRISPR gene editing, a revolutionary tool that allows scientists to precisely cut and paste DNA, opens up unprecedented possibilities for altering the human genome. While promising for curing diseases and enhancing human capabilities, it also carries profound ethical and spiritual implications. Could the drive to upgrade humanity through genetic modification be rooted in an ancient, perhaps subconscious, desire to replicate the forbidden advancements of the pre-flood world? The Watchers, according to the Book of Enoch, imparted forbidden knowledge that led to the corruption of humanity. Could genetic engineering be a modern iteration of this ancient, dangerous pursuit of godlike abilities? The concept of Nephilim DNA preservation is also explored in fringe theories. If the giants were physically larger, perhaps their genetic material, or even fossilized remains, might contain unique markers. The idea that such DNA could be preserved, perhaps in secret laboratories or within clandestine organizations, forms part of the broader cover-up narrative. If powerful institutions did indeed suppress evidence of giant skeletons, one could speculate on the fate of any genetic material that might have been extracted. Could there be an ongoing effort to study or even manipulate this ancient DNA? This leads directly into the unsettling realms of cloning and transhumanism. If ancient Nephilim DNA were accessible, the technology for cloning is rapidly advancing. The ethical boundaries around human cloning are already a subject of intense debate. But imagine the implications if the goal was not just to clone a human, but to resurrect or replicate a Nephilim-like being. While often presented as humanity's next evolutionary step, some view it as a dangerous path, one that mirrors the ancient rebellion of attempting to become like gods, bypassing divine design. The core question posed by this DNA war is whether humanity is, perhaps unknowingly, repeating the same rebellion that began before the Great Flood. The ancient sin was rooted in the transgression of boundaries, the mingling of distinct kinds, and the pursuit of forbidden knowledge that led to corruption and violence. Today, with the ability to engineer life itself, to create hybrids, and to fundamentally alter what it means to be human, are we treading a similar path? Is the modern obsession with perfection, with extending life beyond its natural limits, and with merging man with machine, a reflection of the ancient Nephilim agenda, to create a race that is not fully human, and therefore not fully capable of redemption? The spiritual implications are profound. If the human genome is a sacred template, created in the image of the divine, then its manipulation on a fundamental level carries immense spiritual risk. The Nephilim were an affront to divine order, and their genetic corruption was a key reason for the pre-flood judgment. If humanity now, through its own technological prowess, begins to recreate similar genetic anomalies, it could trigger similar consequences. This suggests that the battle for humanity's future may not just be spiritual or geopolitical, but biological. It is a war for our very essence, for the purity of our lineage, and for our connection to our Creator. This chapter proposes that the modern scientific drive, while seemingly secular and progressive, may have ancient roots, possibly influenced by forces that have long sought to corrupt humanity from within. The Nephilim, as a hybrid race, represent a fundamental challenge to the divine order of creation. As we stand on the precipice of unprecedented genetic power, we are called to consider whether our advancements are leading us towards true enlightenment, or towards a repetition of ancient mistakes, making humanity's future, both physical and spiritual, potentially at stake in this unseen, yet very real biological and spiritual war. This battle for DNA and bloodlines leads us to another fascinating aspect of ancient history: the structures and technologies that might have facilitated such interdimensional or interspecies interactions. From the startling implications of a DNA war and the potential for ancient bloodlines to influence modern genetics, we now shift our focus to a realm where science, mythology, and ancient architecture converge: the possibility of advanced ancient technology. What if some of the colossal megalithic structures scattered across our planet were not merely monuments or temples, but served a far more profound purpose, perhaps even acting as technological gateways or stargates utilized by the Nephilim and their fallen angel progenitors? This chapter delves into the intriguing theory that humanity may be on the verge of unlocking or reactivating ancient portals that once facilitated interdimensional travel. Consider the sheer scale and precision of sites like Stonehenge in England, a prehistoric monument whose massive sarcens and bluestones were transported and erected with incredible engineering feats that defy easy explanation by conventional means. Or Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, an archaeological marvel predating the invention of pottery, with intricately carved T-shaped pillars weighing up to 20 tons each. The complexity and age of Göbekli Tepe challenge the accepted timeline of human civilization, suggesting a level of sophistication previously thought impossible for its era. Then there is Baalbek in Lebanon, home to the largest hewn stones in the world, including the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, a megalith weighing over 1,000 tons, and the even larger monolith discovered nearby. These stones were cut, moved, and precisely placed to form the foundations of ancient temples, leaving modern engineers baffled by the methods employed. Similarly, the Great Pyramids of Giza in Egypt, with their precisely cut and fitted multi-ton blocks, continue to be a source of wonder and speculation regarding the means of their construction. Mainstream archaeology attributes these monumental achievements to human ingenuity, vast labor forces, and ingenious but rudimentary tools. However, for those who explore the Nephilim narrative, a different question arises. What if these structures were built not just by humans, but with the aid of, or even for the direct use of, beings possessing advanced knowledge and capabilities far beyond primitive human technology? If the Watchers imparted forbidden knowledge, as described in the Book of Enoch, Could this knowledge have included principles of anti-gravity, sonic levitation, or even the manipulation of spacetime itself? The theory suggests that these ancient sites, often aligned with celestial bodies or situated on powerful energetic ley lines, were not just places of worship, but functional devices. They might have been designed as portals, pillars, or stargates, points of entry and exit between dimensions, or even between different points in the cosmos. The precise alignments, the use of specific types of stone with piezoelectric properties, and the sheer energetic output speculated by some researchers hint at a technological purpose beyond mere architectural grandeur. This ancient possibility takes on a chilling relevance when we consider modern scientific endeavors, particularly the research being conducted at particle accelerators like CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research. CERN is home to the Large Hadron Collider, LHC, a powerful machine designed to smash subatomic particles together at nearly the speed of light, recreating conditions that existed just moments after the Big Bang. Its stated goal is to understand the fundamental building blocks of the universe, to discover new particles, and to explore the nature of dark matter and dark energy. However, alongside the scientific objectives, there is a fringe, yet persistent, speculation that CERN is doing something more. Some theorists propose that the LHC, in its quest to understand the fabric of reality, is inadvertently, or perhaps intentionally, pushing the boundaries of interdimensional travel. The fear is that by creating mini black holes or manipulating the Higgs field, CERN could be tearing open breaches in the fabric of spacetime, effectively creating portals. While mainstream science dismisses these fears as unfounded, the imagery associated with CERN, including a statue of the Hindu deity Shiva, the destroyer, at its entrance, and its location near Geneva, a city with historical ties to ancient rituals, fuels these more esoteric interpretations. The idea of stargates finds curious resonance in Scripture as well. Jacob is ladder, described in Genesis chapter 28 verse 12, as a ladder reaching from earth to heaven, with angels ascending and descending upon it, can be seen as a metaphorical or perhaps even literal portal between realms. The concept of an abyss in the book of Revelation, a bottomless pit from which demonic entities emerge, also suggests a dimensional boundary that can be opened, releasing spiritual forces into our world. If these ancient texts describe such phenomena, could the Nephilim and their angelic progenitors have possessed the knowledge or technology to open and close such pathways? This chapter poses that humanity is not just rediscovering ancient knowledge, but is potentially on the verge of reactivating ancient technologies that were once used by non-human intelligences. The very structures that baffle archaeologists might have been components of a global network of portals, built or utilized by the Nephilim to facilitate their arrival or their interaction with this dimension. As modern science pushes the boundaries of physics, recreating conditions previously unimaginable, are we, in our pursuit of knowledge, unknowingly re-establishing connections that were severed millennia ago for a reason? Are we reopening doors that were slammed shut at the time of the flood, potentially inviting back forces that have long sought re-entry into our world? The very real possibility that ancient megaliths and modern particle accelerators are linked by a common, yet terrifying, principle of dimensional manipulation adds a new layer of urgency to the Nephilim narrative, suggesting that their return might not be solely biological or spiritual, but also technological. Such profound implications also lead us to question how our modern culture might be subtly preparing us for such revelations. Having delved into the possibility of ancient technologies and modern scientific endeavors potentially reopening forgotten portals, we now pivot to an equally intriguing and perhaps more insidious aspect of the Nephilim narrative: the pervasive influence of popular culture. What if the entertainment we consume daily is not merely for amusement, but serves a deeper, more subliminal purpose? Here, we will explore the controversial theory of predictive programming, suggesting that modern films, series, music, and video games might be subtly conditioning humanity to accept or even welcome the return of giants, hybrids, and other supernatural entities. Think about the sheer volume of media that features towering figures, godlike beings, and hybrid creatures. From the epic sagas of ancient mythology brought to life on the big screen, like Clash of the Titans or Immortals, to contemporary blockbusters and animated series, the entertainment industry frequently repackages ancient narratives, often presenting them with stunning visual effects and compelling storylines. This is not simply a recycling of timeless archetypes. There might be a more deliberate pattern at play. Consider the immense popularity of franchises that explicitly feature giants or beings with extraordinary powers and unusual origins. Attack on Titan, a highly successful anime and manga series, depicts a world where humanity fights for survival against colossal humanoid creatures. Marvel Comics and the Marvel Cinematic Universe are replete with godlike superheroes, aliens, and beings with powers that transcend normal human capabilities, often drawing directly from ancient mythologies. The Norse gods Thor and Loki, for example, are presented as powerful, ancient beings from other realms. The X-Men explore the concept of genetic mutations and the emergence of superpowered humans. Even animated films and children's stories sometimes feature giants in varying roles, from benevolent figures to terrifying adversaries. The theory of predictive programming suggests that these fictional narratives, whether intentionally or unintentionally, serve to desensitize the public to certain concepts, making them seem more plausible, less shocking, and eventually more acceptable, should they manifest in reality. If the existence of giants, hybrid beings, or interdimensional entities were to become undeniable, a public already saturated with these concepts through entertainment might be less inclined to panic or reject the truth. It is a psychological operation, proponents argue, preparing the collective consciousness for a future reality that might otherwise be too jarring to comprehend. This conditioning works on a subconscious level. Repeated exposure to themes of ancient gods walking among us, super soldiers with enhanced DN, or hidden realms teeming with powerful entities, gradually normalizes these ideas. The lines between science fiction, fantasy, and potential reality begin to blur. When an actual anomaly or revelation occurs, the mind is already primed to integrate it into its worldview, rather than resisting it entirely. The sensational is made mundane through constant exposure and entertainment. Beyond overt storylines, predictive programming theorists also examine the symbolism embedded within popular culture. Music videos, comic books, video games, and even commercial advertising often contain esoteric symbols, mythological allusions, and subtle spiritual messaging that, when decoded, point towards themes of transhumanism, the breaking of dimensional barriers, or the return of ancient powers. For example, some argue that the recurring imagery of all-seeing eyes, pyramids, or specific hand gestures in music videos are not random artistic choices, but intentional signals or ritualistic elements that tap into deeper occultic currents, connected to entities or ideologies that align with the Nephilim narrative. The question then becomes, is this mere coincidence, artistic expression, or a subtle long-term conditioning program? Does the entertainment industry, whether wittingly or unwittingly, act as a vehicle for forces that wish to prepare humanity for a grand unveiling? The implications are profound. If our collective consciousness is being shaped in this way, it suggests a strategic, patient effort to influence human perception and belief systems. It implies that the giants in the shadows are not just physical beings, but also conceptual forces influencing the narratives that define our reality. This pervasive cultural preparation takes on an even more ominous tone when viewed through the lens of biblical prophecy, compelling us to revisit the days of Noah and draw parallels to our present time. Our journey through ancient giants, hidden histories, and cultural conditioning brings us face to face with a profound biblical warning, one uttered by Jesus himself. In Matthew chapter 24, verse 37, Jesus declares, "As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the coming of the Son of Man." This powerful statement serves as a prophetic lens, inviting us to draw chilling parallels between the pre-flood world, a time consumed by Nephilim corruption, and the state of our modern society. This chapter unpacks what life was truly like before the flood and how closely our present mirrors that ancient, tumultuous time. What exactly characterized the days of Noah? Beyond the common understanding of widespread wickedness, the scriptural accounts paint a more specific and unsettling picture. As we discussed in earlier chapters, Genesis chapter 6 describes a world where the sons of God, interpreted as fallen angels, interbred with human women, giving rise to the Nephilim. These hybrid beings, along with the knowledge imparted by the Watchers, led to an unprecedented level of moral decay and violence. Genesis chapter 6, verse 11 states, "The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence." This was not just typical human sin. It was a profound perversion, a deep spiritual and even genetic contamination that had saturated the planet. Today, we see disturbing echoes of this pre-flood world. The moral fabric of society seems to be unraveling at an accelerated pace. Traditional values are eroding, and what was once considered aberrant is increasingly normalized. Sexual immorality, widespread deceit, and a disregard for divine laws are becoming pervasive, mirroring the moral chaos described in Genesis before the flood. This societal shift creates a fertile ground for spiritual deception and provides an environment where truth is obscured and darkness is embraced. Furthermore, the concept of hybrid experimentation is no longer confined to ancient mythology. As explored in our discussion on the DNA war, modern science is pushing the boundaries of genetic manipulation. The creation of human-animal chimeras, the exploration of gene editing for enhancement rather than just therapy, and the very real discussions around designer babies all hint at a societal fascination with altering the very essence of life. While these advancements are presented as scientific progress, they raise significant ethical and spiritual alarms. Are we, in our scientific hubris, recreating the conditions that led to the genesis of the Nephilim, blurring the lines between species and defying the created order? The potential for creating new forms of life that do not fit into existing classifications, or for altering humanity in ways that compromise its divine image, carries a profound resonance with the pre-flood genetic corruption. The increase in demonic activity and spiritual deception is another stark parallel. As noted in the chapter on the Watcher's return, there's a perceived rise in supernatural phenomena, occultism, and a general fascination with the dark arts. This mirrors the pre-flood world, where the fallen angels actively corrupted humanity with forbidden knowledge and spiritual influences. If spiritual entities are indeed becoming more active and brazen in our world, it suggests a strategic deployment of dark forces, attempting to sow confusion, incite rebellion, and prepare the way for a greater deception. The spiritual battlefield is increasingly visible, manifesting in mental health crises, social unrest, and a general sense of spiritual oppression. Global upheaval, both natural and man-made, adds to this sense of prophetic convergence. Climate anomalies, unprecedented natural disasters, widespread political instability, and escalating conflicts across the globe create a backdrop of escalating chaos, reminiscent of a world spiraling out of control. While these events can be attributed to natural cycles or human actions, from a prophetic perspective, they align with the birth pangs described in Scripture, signaling a world in distress, reaching a tipping point. Jesus' words are not merely a historical observation. They are a direct warning. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the coming of the Son of Man. The implication is clear. The conditions that necessitated divine intervention in Noah's time are reforming in our own era. The widespread moral corruption, the unholy blending of distinct kinds, and the pervasive violence and spiritual defilement that marked the pre-flood world are increasingly evident today. This prophecy suggests that a similar kind of divine intervention, a global judgment, is on the horizon. This chapter serves as both a chilling warning and an urgent call to spiritual vigilance. It compels us to look beyond the surface of daily life and recognize the profound spiritual battles unfolding around us. The reemergence of Nephilim-like influences may not manifest as literal 20-foot-tall beings walking down our streets, but rather as pervasive ideologies, subtle genetic manipulations, and escalating spiritual deceptions that seek to corrupt humanity from within. Understanding the days of Noah is not just about recounting ancient history. It is about recognizing the present moment and preparing for the imminent future. This recognition of an ongoing spiritual conflict naturally leads us to consider how believers can stand firm against these forces. Having drawn stark parallels between our current age and the days of Noah, a time marked by widespread corruption and the presence of the Nephilim, the inevitable question arises: how do we respond to such profound spiritual realities? This chapter shifts from theory and historical analysis to practical application, offering spiritual insight into how individuals can stand firm against the re-emerging influences of these ancient forces. The battle is not merely academic. It is a spiritual warfare, and understanding its nature is paramount for those who seek to navigate these challenging times. The Apostle Paul, in his letter to the Ephesians, provides a foundational truth for understanding this conflict. In Ephesians chapter 6 verse 12, he writes, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places." This verse is crucial. It clarifies that the ultimate battle is not against visible enemies, human institutions, or even the physical manifestations of potential giants. Instead, it is a spiritual struggle against unseen forces, against malevolent entities operating in the spiritual realm. If the Nephilim narrative is true and fallen angels instigated an ancient corruption, then these are the very principalities and powers Paul warns us about. Therefore, the primary response to the potential resurgence of Nephilim influence must be spiritual. This begins with discernment. In an age filled with deception, false narratives, and spiritual confusion, the ability to discern truth from falsehood, to recognize the subtle workings of darkness, is more vital than ever. This requires a deep grounding in truth, a clear understanding of spiritual principles, and a reliance on spiritual guidance to navigate the complexities of our world. Without discernment, individuals can easily be led astray by appealing ideologies that mask dangerous spiritual undercurrents. Prayer stands as a formidable weapon in this spiritual warfare. It is not merely a passive act of petition, but an active engagement with divine power. Through prayer, individuals can align themselves with heavenly forces, intercede for others, and directly challenge the influences of darkness. Consistent, fervent prayer creates a spiritual shield, strengthens resolve, and opens channels for divine intervention in personal lives and global events. It is a direct line to the source of all power, enabling believers to stand firm against seemingly overwhelming odds. The concept of the armor of God, also described by Paul in Ephesians chapter 6, verses 13 through 17, provides a comprehensive framework for spiritual readiness. Each piece of this armor serves a vital purpose in protecting and empowering individuals in spiritual conflict. The belt of truth provides integrity and honesty in a world of lies. The breastplate of righteousness protects the heart and conscience from spiritual attacks. The shoes of the gospel of peace enable one to stand firm and share hope amidst chaos. The shield of faith extinguishes the fiery darts of the enemy, protecting against doubt and fear. The helmet of salvation safeguards the mind from deceptive thoughts and ensures spiritual identity. And the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God, provides the offensive weapon to confront and overcome spiritual opposition. This armor is not metaphorical. It represents active spiritual disciplines and a continuous reliance on divine provision. The resurgence of Nephilim influence may not come as literal 20-foot-tall beings dominating cityscapes. Instead, it is likely to manifest through ideologies, technologies, and spiritual deceptions that subtly corrupt human society. Consider the promotion of transhumanism, which seeks to redefine humanity itself, as a subtle form of Nephilim influence, attempting to replicate the hybrid nature of the past through technological means. Or the rise of occult symbols and practices in mainstream culture, slowly normalizing what was once considered dark and forbidden. These are the battlegrounds, the subtle encroachments where spiritual vigilance is most needed. Therefore, individuals are empowered to take their faith seriously, to actively engage in spiritual disciplines, and to recognize the true nature of the battle they are in. It is about staying rooted in truth, discerning deception, and understanding that the struggle is not against other people, but against the spiritual forces that seek to manipulate and control. The call is to be awake, aware, and prepared, not with fear, but with conviction and spiritual authority. The recognition of this ongoing spiritual warfare leads us naturally to the next pressing question. If the Nephilim never left, where are these ancient giants now, hidden in plain sight? Our journey has taken us from ancient texts to modern science, from historical suppression to cultural conditioning, and into the heart of spiritual warfare. Now we return to the core question that began our exploration. If the Nephilim never truly left, where are they now? This chapter revisits that provocative inquiry, proposing several possibilities for their current existence and influence, suggesting that their manifestation in our modern world might be far more subtle and perhaps more pervasive than we imagine. The truth, as the title suggests, could be hidden in plain sight. One compelling theory suggests that ancient giants, or their descendants, retreated into hidden places, perhaps even vast underground bases. Stories of subterranean cities, elaborate tunnel systems, and secret networks beneath the Earth's surface exist in numerous mythologies and conspiracy theories. If beings of immense size required refuge from surface conditions, or sought to operate beyond the gaze of humanity, the Earth's deep interior, or remote, inaccessible caverns, would provide ideal sanctuaries. Whistleblower accounts and speculative research sometimes hint at the existence of these hidden subterranean realms, populated by entities that prefer to remain unseen. Another possibility involves hidden dimensions. If the fallen watchers who instigated the Nephilim were celestial beings capable of interdimensional travel, it stands to reason that their hybrid offspring might also possess, or have developed, this ability. This theory posits that the giants are not merely hidden geographically, but dimensionally. They might exist in a parallel reality, a frequency or plane of existence just beyond our normal perception, occasionally crossing over into our world, explaining strange disappearances, unexplained phenomena, and fleeting sightings. As our understanding of quantum physics and theoretical dimensions expands, the idea of parallel realities becomes less like pure fantasy and more like a speculative, yet intriguing, scientific possibility. The concept of secret societies also emerges as a potential hiding place or mechanism of influence. If the Nephilim bloodlines persisted, even subtly, they might have intermarried with human lineages, perhaps influencing powerful families or elite groups throughout history. These secret societies, operating in the shadows, could serve as conduits for ancient knowledge, power, or even the direct influence of unseen entities. The goal would be to maintain control, manipulate human affairs from behind the scenes, and perpetuate an agenda that aligns with the pre-flood corruption. The symbols and rituals of some secret societies are often linked to ancient mysteries and esoteric knowledge, fueling speculation about their true origins and allegiances. Perhaps the most unsettling possibility is that the giants are walking among us today, not as towering behemoths, but as genetically modified humans. As discussed in the chapter on the DNA war, modern science is rapidly advancing in genetic engineering and transhumanism. Could there be clandestine projects aimed at resurrecting Nephilim DNA, or creating hybrid human-animal or human technology beings? These individuals might look outwardly normal, but possess enhanced abilities, altered physiologies, or even non-human genetic markers. This would truly be hidden in plain sight, a subtle subversion of human identity that is difficult to detect without advanced genetic screening. The obsession with human enhancement in some circles raises the specter of a deliberate attempt to create a new breed of humanity, mirroring the ancient transgression. Moreover, the term giants itself might extend beyond physical stature. While the original Nephilim were certainly described as large, there might also refer to their influence, power, and renown. In this broader sense, some giants today might not be physical beings at all, but systems of power, global ideologies, or pervasive spiritual influences. Consider the giant of globalism, which seeks to unify the world under a single system, potentially erasing national and individual identities. Or the giant of technological control, where algorithms and artificial intelligence exert unprecedented influence over human thought and behavior. These are giants in their scale and impact, wielding immense power over humanity, and potentially serving as conduits for the ancient forces that seek to dominate and corrupt. Whistleblower accounts and fringe research, though often dismissed by mainstream narratives, offer tantalizing hints at these possibilities. From testimonies about deep underground military bases and alleged encounters with non-human entities, to research into hidden archaeological sites and claims of suppressed information, these narratives collectively paint a picture of a world far more complex and mysterious than commonly understood. Prophetic dreams and visions, reported by individuals from various spiritual traditions, sometimes contain imagery of powerful, non-human entities interacting with the world, further fueling the idea of hidden influences. In conclusion, the question of where the Nephilim are now is not easily answered with a single definitive location. It is a multifaceted mystery, suggesting that their presence or influence could manifest in various forms: hidden physical locations, other dimensions, secretive human organizations, genetically altered individuals, or even as overarching systems of power and control. The idea that some giants are not physical but represent powerful, dominating ideologies or spiritual strongholds is particularly relevant in our increasingly complex world. This realization that the battle is multidimensional and pervasive naturally leads us to the ultimate question: are we nearing a final showdown, a climax in this ancient spiritual conflict? We have traversed a vast landscape of ancient mysteries, hidden histories, and unsettling modern phenomena. From the biblical genesis of the Nephilim and their forbidden union, to the global archaeological whispers of giants, the alleged cover-up by powerful institutions, the subtle re-emergence of watcher influences, the chilling implications of a DNA war, the possibility of reactivated ancient portals, and the pervasive conditioning of popular culture, all roads lead us to a singular, urgent conclusion. What we are witnessing is not merely a collection of isolated anomalies, but a coherent narrative, pointing towards a larger spiritual conflict nearing its climax. The threads of ancient prophecy, global events, and hidden history are not disparate. They are interwoven into a single compelling tapestry. The biblical accounts, particularly Jesus' warning in Matthew chapter 24 verse 37 about the days of Noah, serve as a prophetic blueprint. The conditions that precipitated divine intervention millennia ago, including widespread moral decay, genetic corruption, pervasive violence, and supernatural deception, are alarmingly present in our world today. This convergence strongly suggests that humanity is once again on the brink of a monumental shift, a confrontation between opposing spiritual forces. The return of Nephilim influence is not just a fringe theory. It is presented as a crucial component of this larger spiritual conflict. Whether manifest as literal physical giants, unseen entities manipulating from hidden dimensions, powerful bloodlines exerting control through secret societies, or the subtle subversion of human identity through genetic engineering, their influence appears to be a consistent theme in the unfolding drama of human history. The giants of old were not just large physical beings. They were symbols of corruption, rebellion, and a direct challenge to divine order. Their modern counterparts, whether physical or ideological, embody the same spirit of defiance against the Creator. We are living in a time of unprecedented change, where the veil between the natural and supernatural seems to be thinning. The increased reports of spiritual activity, the rapid acceleration of technologies that once seemed like science fiction, and the erosion of traditional moral boundaries all point to a world that is being prepared for something immense. This preparation, whether conscious or unconscious, suggests that humanity is being positioned for an ultimate showdown. This ultimate showdown is not merely a metaphor. It is the culmination of the ancient spiritual warfare described in Scripture, a battle between the forces of darkness and the children of light. The stakes could not be higher. It is a confrontation that will determine the destiny of humanity and, indeed, the fate of the earth itself. The narrative suggests that we are not passive observers in this unfolding drama, but active participants. Every choice, every action, every alignment plays a part in this grand cosmic struggle. Therefore, the call is clear: to awaken. To awaken from the slumber of conventional thinking, to question accepted narratives, and to discern the true nature of the forces at play in our world. It is a call to prepare, both spiritually and practically, for a future that may be more challenging and profound than many can imagine. Most importantly, it is a call to choose. To choose a side in this ancient, yet ever-present, battle between heaven and earth. The signs are around us for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. The time for apathy is over. The final countdown has begun. As our profound journey into the world of the Nephilim concludes, we hope this exploration has opened your eyes, sparked your curiosity, and perhaps stirred something deep within you. This is a topic that challenges our perceptions and invites us to look beyond the surface of accepted history. If this message resonated with you, if this journey through ancient mysteries gave you clarity, hope, or stirred something within you, we invite you to become a part of our growing community. Please take a moment to subscribe to this channel for more content that delves into hidden truths and spiritual insights. Your subscription helps us bring more of these vital discussions to light. If you found value in this video, please show your support by giving it a like. It helps others discover this message and signals to the platform that this information is important. We also encourage you to leave a comment below. Share your thoughts, your own experiences, or what impacted you most. We read every word and value your insights in this collective pursuit of understanding. And above all, please share this video with someone you care about. A friend, a family member, or anyone who might benefit from this unique perspective. Together, we can continue to explore the truths that shape our world. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey.